Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, we will see how do we create the Kubernetes cluster and deploy the application using Terraform. When we talk about deploying the application within Kubernetes, there are multiple options we have. First, you can create a Helm chart, or you can use the advanced tools like a Spinnaker, or the best and simplest solution is to manage the deployment using Terraform. I would recommend going through this route rather than creating a help chart or a Spinnaker kind of a tool for which you need additional expertise. Okay, so let's get into the implementation. So first you have to create a container registry. As you see here, like it takes certain parameter. So let's deep dive into that container registry module. So again, as per our standard, we are creating a naming module here that is going to create a naming for this container registry. So container registry, we just create a container registry resource and the set up a diagnostics and create a private endpoint. Again, for all of our implementation, we are using a private endpoint. Our agenda is that we don't want to expose any public endpoint or public IPs. Once we have the ACR, then it's time to create the Kubernetes cluster. So let's see, like we are passing certain parameters here, including the ACR registry. So let's see what we have here. So first, we use the naming module to generate a name for this Kubernetes cluster and a user assigned identity we create. And there are certain permissions we need to define and assign. So as you see here, it needs to have a Kubernetes cluster permission and a DNS contributor permission and the identity operator permission. As of course, like you also need to have a ACR role. Why do we need all this permission? For instance, this ACR role, you need to pull the images from the ACR. So to do that, you need to have a ACR pull permission. So that is assigned. And down the line, we will be creating the managed identity for the individual applications. To do that, you need to have this particular permission. Also, like whenever we deploy application, we need to add a entry in the DNS. So to do that, we have this permission. And of course, like to manage the resources, you need to have this permission. So it's all going to be straightforward again. So we just define the standard template that the Terraform does. Of course, as per our needs, we have updated some of these configuration. For instance, we say like we want to know what is our maintenance window, all of those, right? uh, and then finally we have our diagnostics configuration here. So basically, like what does it do? Like it just create the user identity, and then like it creates the Kubernetes cluster that will make use of this user assigned identity, and then it does set the diagnostic settings. Now let's go back. We do have some alerts here. I'm not going to go into it. And then we have defined some providers here. So usually, in the landing zone implementation, we will just deploy a sample application. So to do that, we need to have this Kubernetes provider and the Helm chart provider. Say like you want to use the Helm charts, to do the deployment, right? So let's see, like we have a bootstrap module here. So in the bootstrap module, so let's go out and see. So our expectation is that like when we deploy this Kubernetes cluster, it has to have all the bells and whistles. So let's see, like that's all comes as a part of this bootstrap module here, right? So if you go here, like we will be using the nginx controller, ingress controller. So again, how do we do it? Like we define our locals here. This is again like as it is a defined, at any point in time you can come and make the changes here. This is kind of a hard coded, just because this can be static values, right? It doesn't have to be a dynamic value. Maybe like if you're a very big organization, probably you may need to adjust this value. But to me, this is the standard value that should fit for most of the requirement. And then we have the we create a namespace here, and then we make use of this uh, Helm chart to do the deployment by passing all these values here. So what does it do? Like it just creates the Nginx ingress controller, and we have a external secret So you want to pull the secrets from the Azure Key Vault. To do that, you need to have this external secret installed. The pattern it's again going to be the same. You will be using the helm charts to do the deployment and external DNS. As said, like whenever we deploy application, we will create a DNS entry so that like this application it's accessible. So to do that, like we are using this external DNS. So pattern it same like you just you make use of the Helm chart, pass the proper values here, and the certificate manager. So certificate manager, like I said, like whenever we create the or deploy the application, there is going to be a DNS entry, and you don't want to expose through HTTP. Rather, it has to be HTTPS. When we talk about HTTPS, you need to have SSL certificate. To generate this certificate, you need to have this cert manager, and this implementation does support Let's Encrypt, which is a free version of getting your certificates. And like it also does support the DigiCert, which is a paid version. Again, like depends on your provider, you can adjust your configuration. By default, it does support only these two right now. So now let's go back. So Bootstrap, as you see here, it does four things. It creates the ingress and external secrets and external DNS and the certificate manager. Now time to deploy the application. So we just create the, so the way we structured, it's all here, right? So we have these applications apps folder. Within that we define the applications, and one of those it's pet store. We will just deploy it. The next one it's going to be sonar cube, which I am not going to deploy it. It depends on the need, so you can deploy it. So let's see like what do we have in this pet store application. So in the pet store application, for each application, for each backend application or front end application, also you need to have the application insight. If you're sharing the, like if it is a front end and a back end, then you can make use of the same application insight for both the applications, right? So here like it's just about API application. So I just create a application insight, and the like we deploy this application by passing all this value. There is a module called Kubernetes workload. We just pass these values here. Um so what is the image, and then like the what is your host, basically like the DNS entry and all those things, right? So you just pass it. And as this is a API application, along with the application you also wanted to deploy the API in the APIM. I will come back and discuss on this. So before we go there, let's check out this Kubernetes workload. Kubernetes workload. Kubernetes workload, it's going to be a huge implementation, right? So you do the data for all these like Kubernetes and the like all those role definitions. So basically like what we are trying to do here is that we will create a user assigned identity for each of these applications, so that these user assigned identity will the service can make use of this user assigned identity to access the Azure resources. So you assign all these permissions. You create a namespace, you create a service account. Basically it's a Kubernetes service account, and the like for this Kubernetes service account we will be using this user assigned identity, right? And we create a configuration map, and then we create a storage secret. And the like it has to support the PVPVC and persistent volume. So we define all those resources. So basically like whenever you wanted to, like there are two set of configuration that you will have for each application, right? One is the environment variable, the second one is the secret. So secrets, it should be stored in the key vault. Again, like we mentioned that we will be using the external secrets to pull these values from key vault, right? So before that we have to store these values. So we make use of a module and create a secret, and the like make sure that this particular uh, user assigned identity has the permission in that particular key vault, and the like we create a federated identity so that like the service account will use the service account, but then like again when we use the service account, it will be for from the Azure perspective, it is going to be your user assigned identity, and you create the secrets. I will show you like how do we pass these secrets and all those, and we create a secret store, external secret, and we do the application deployment. Everything it's configurable, right? So you do the application deployment here, and your horizontal pod autoscaler and the like service account, Kubernetes service, and ingress. So using which, this is a kind of a standard template. You just need to define this particular module, and the like how many ever application you deploy, you just make use of the same module here, right? So here, as I said, so basically here you define your environment variables, and you will be having your own secret. So two things, like from the main module, you can pass these secrets, which I do not have it here, but the like if you have any environment variable that you are supposed to pass, for instance, like you want to pass some ACR value, whatever it is, that you can always pass. And the like you can also pass these secrets also, right? But the like for this particular application, I do not need anything. So all I need it's the local environment variable and the secrets. I'm passing all this, and the like I'm deploying this, and the like finally I have this APIM. So when you have this application, you will have your open API, JSON. Just make use of that and do the deployment. So that way, like how you will be deploying your application in Kubernetes, at the same time you will also create your APIs in your APIM. So let's look into this Sonar Cube as well. Sonar Cube, again, like the pattern, it's always going to be the same. So here we will create a key vault, just because like we wanted to create a database also, because like this particular application, the Sonar Cube, needs a database. So the other application, the Pet Store, doesn't need the database. But the, like this Cube needs the database. So we to store the credentials, we create a key vault, and the like we create a database server. Like we are using the Postgres flexible, and the like we create a database, and we need to have a storage account, because like this application needs the storage account. So you create the storage account. Again, like if you see here, everything is a module, right? So you create the storage account, and you do the deployment, right? So the beauty here is that if you look into these locals, we are referring the database. Like we create a database, and like we need a username, password, and then the connection string, all those, everything, it's referenced, right? So we are bundling everything together, right? So even if you have a Helm chart, you have to pass these values one or other way, right? So again, like you have to pull this, like manually create this database, or maybe like through the Terraform you create this, and like insert that value into some key vault, and like you have to pass this name of this key vault in your Helm chart. It's all a manual exercise. Here nothing, it's manual, everything is put together, so that like you, how whatever the resource that you create, and like do the association, that's it. No manual, like no copy pasting in any place. You don't do any copy paste, right? And you're not making any mistakes also. uh, okay, so under like yeah, so we here we also have a persistent volume, because like the Sonar Cube needs a persistent volume. So we create the persistent volume here. So here we are not deploying the APIM, because like uh, it is not the API application. This is more of a standalone application. So you just deploy this application. So that is how you can actually create your Kubernetes, and like do the deployment. Again, the beauty is that the same code can be used across the environment without making any changes, right?